The much anticipated Palme d'Or winner, Parasite, has come out and it's directed by Bong Joon Ho. Today I'm joined with Theo to get into this review for a very interesting film. Let's get to it.
뭐야, 소독해? 창문 닫아.
나도 봐. 공짜로 집안에 소독도 하고.
As mentioned, this is a film from Bong Joon Ho. It stars the really highly acclaimed actor Kang Ho Sung and a bevy of other talented people. As mentioned, I'm joined with Theo, and we'll get to him in a second. I actually just watched this recently, so I guess I'll get to just general broad thoughts of how I felt on the film. I think this film is really it's really interesting. I know this obviously has been getting a ton of praise from virtually everyone, and I think it's definitely warranted here. I'm really impressed the project Bong Joon Ho was able to put together. I do have certain issues with it. I think it drags in a key moment, but the rhythmicness, the symbolism in it, everything that a film does to show itself as like, oh hey, like I'm just this good at making movies. Yeah, Bong Joon Ho does here, and we can get into more things, but that's just general thoughts from me so far. But Theo, what did you think?
So I think that's actually I would agree with everything you've said. I think that I love the fact that it was the Palme d'Or winner, and I really am happy at how much recognition it's getting, because I think while Bong Joon Ho was recognized before, I think this is really putting him on the map.
For sure.
And I think that this movie takes a lot of what he does well in his prior movies, and like it's just like it feels like a capstone almost. Like he just takes it to the next level. You're talking about how it feels and looks, and I agree with you. I think it's incredibly clean. It's like very slick, and just the way he moves the camera, it always feels like it's just kind of gliding along. Especially in the scenes where we're in the upper class family, and I have maybe like some things that I think aren't perfect about it, but it just feels like an incredibly well crafted movie that would appeal to almost everyone, which is really just the most impressive thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those things where, even because this happened similarly last year, where Spider-Verse came out and was universally praised, and there were certain people that were like, oh, well, I'm not as high on it as other people, but I definitely get why people love it. I don't know if that's where, because a lot of people are talking about this as like one of the greatest films ever. I don't know if I'm at that level, but I think it would be like, I didn't go into it, putting those expectations on it or anything like that. I think it reaches those moments. One of the things I think was most alluring is the writing here. Bong Joon Ho has always been a really talented writer. It's not necessarily the dialogue that I'm talking about when I mean writing wise. The dialogue here is actually really impressive, given his track record, because it isn't always like the best. However, I think what he does really well is he when you go into screenwriting, you say, okay, I have these characters and I want them for this scene, and these are what we're aiming to get through emotionally. There's this pacing behind it, and I think it's like a masterclass in some of that stuff in very key scenes. There's one in particular that I think is hands down the best scene. It just does everything so well. Me and Theo had just talked about The Lighthouse, so this is still fresh on the mind. One of my issues with The Lighthouse is it had so many genres that I don't think it balanced that well, whereas I think Parasite does that excellently. And I don't even need to get into all of them it touches, but there's tons of scenes where I was like, oh my God, I'm not even sure like what I'm supposed to be experiencing, but that didn't hinder it like it did for The Lighthouse for me. It only helped my experience even more. And Theo brought up the classism that happens here, and I think that actually does have a ton of statements to be made, where I think this should be a film that a ton of people seek out, because I do think it has a lot of importance backing it because of that. I don't know if you want to jump in at any point, Theo. Sorry.
No. I think that what you're all saying is fantastic, and I actually really agree with you as well. I'd love to further get into some specific scenes in mind, but one thing that I was really impressed by is I think it's very easy to make a movie that talks about class, just class and classism and wealth disparity without saying anything in one way or the
Definitely.
other.
Yeah.
And likewise, it's also very easy to make one that says too much, where it's just like, is this on the nose or is this just a nose
Yeah.
job?
We,
You know? And and so like I was just very impressed that when I left the theater that was showing this, I was just thinking, wow, I think I know what it's trying to say, but I'm now realizing it wasn't obvious. It's like more nuanced about that. Whereas,
I completely agree.
oh, sorry, would you like me to keep going in detail or no? Would you like to
Yeah,
see
no,
that?
I was just gonna interject with one thing on that. Like, I told you this before. I had no clue what this movie was prior.
Mhm.
I literally, like, it could have been like a zombie movie, and I have no idea because all I knew was the poster, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best poster I've seen in a
Yes,
long, long while.
it's
Um,
phenomenal. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also thought that Kang Ho Sung was going to be a much bigger factor. And that's not to say he doesn't kill it. He does. So I was actually surprised because Choi Woo Sik gets a lot of the screen time here,
Hmm.
and I think he actually does a really good job. I don't know if he has worked previously, but this was a really impressive performance that he turns in. It's same with the rest of the family, both of them included like there's performances that could stand out as like misses, and no one does that here. Everybody's on their A game. But to Theo's point, you go into it and it gets to a certain level, and the movie's called Parasite.
Hmm.
And you start thinking to yourself, "Oh, it's this is what it's going for. This is the message." And obviously, that's not just it. There's so much more that it's saying about families in poor situations, about their sons and like or sons, daughters, and like new generation. What that means to the family's legacy. Just different things. I don't know. Just the things it brings up. It's not in a way that felt stale, in like you were talking about, where sometimes where it explores these themes, it's like, yeah, we get it. Rich people bad, poor people like they shouldn't be starving,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do it in any way where it's exploitative or anything like that. It feels like such a natural and well written story that it was just a real treat to watch. That's the biggest compliment I can give like any film is like I walked out of it and I was like, oh boy, that was a movie. Like I had so much. I don't know. I might go back to the theater. I just got AMC A list.
Nice.
I might see this again in the theater
It's
because
probably
it was.
better than the other uses you could be getting out of your A-list.
That's true. I could see Countdown and Maleficent
Boy.
too. But yeah, continue if you had more on that
Well,
point too.
I was just saying, I think it's really cool that you brought up The Lighthouse because while I'm very hot on that, I know that they're both like very interesting movies. And to basically explain what I'm talking about, I like that you were saying you were comparing the two in terms of what genre they are and how I just think it's funny to call these movies genre fluid. But the
For
key
sure.
difference is that like I think with The Lighthouse it's sort of genre fluid in a way you go, well, wait, what genre is this? And with
Yeah.
Parasite, you go, whoa, what genre is this? It's like two different like
Well, no,
intonations, you know?
okay. See, I get where you're going with that point, but I walked out of this movie not thinking, oh, what genre is this? I walked out of it thinking this is a Bong Joon Ho film,
Absolutely,
like
absolutely.
which is a statement, like for a director. Like you have to do so many like great things to get to that point, or so many distinctive things, i.e., Michael Bay. Um, but
Fair.
yeah, that's a huge compliment to this guy. I hope he gets a director nominee. Um, After seeing it, man, I've been saying this for a while because so many people saw Parasite early because screeners already were passed around, and a bunch of other things, which is fine. But so many people were like, "Oh, Parasite's gonna win Best Picture," and I was like, "Guys, I wouldn't get too excited because Green Book won last year." So let's not forget that.
Yeah, never
Um,
forget.
yeah, but I really hope they treat this with some respect, because there's a lot of, I mean, we haven't even touched on it. The score is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And it really knows when to pull the right sounds for key moments, and it only escalates what they're showing on screen. I think the cinematography is really solid in a very similar way. It had very similar cinematography to Burning, which I really enjoyed, because it makes it seem like you're there in the experience at the time.
Right.
And just, everything here is so fun.
Well, not to be particular, but I think that that's really cool that you mentioned that, because you are actually right. It is the same. Not only is it the same cinematographer as
Oh.
Mother, but it is also. Oh, excuse me, it is Burning. Well, I just left the gun. It is also the same one as Mother, which is another Bong Joon Ho movie that I'm. Very
And
keen on.
Snowpiercer.
Correct. And also The Wailing, which is a third director who has like.
I swear I'm seeing it this weekend.
But like all three of those are like of varying degrees of recognition, but pretty widely recognized important
For
South
sure.
Korean directors. And so it's very cool that it's cool that you pointed out similarities, because I agree with you. I think even if you leave this movie not having the message imparted on you, you can at least say that was a beautiful movie.
Oh, for sure. And that was, I think, at this point, we're just comparing films. But I think that was my takeaway from like Handmaiden. I didn't necessarily resonate with the Handmaiden that much. But I walked away being like, oh, that's a really well-crafted movie. And this was the film I actually wanted an experience with Handmaiden.
Right.
Because it resonated even more. There was sustenance to it on top of having such a great presentation. And the story in Handmaiden is great, but I think there's something more enthralling with this that you don't get with a lot of films.
I would concur with that.
And I think we're sort of wrapping up. Again, we're probably going to hit spoiler talk, so just be on the lookout for that video.
그래도 사랑하시죠?
So Theo, give us your score that you would give for Parasite.
Yeah, so this is very tricky because I've really gone back and forth on this one. I think I can very confidently give it a high 8. I don't really necessarily know if I'd give it anything more specific, but the reason why I give it a really high 8 and a glowing recommendation is because I think it is a very strong jack of all trades.
That's I love that. That's gonna be the full quote. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I also struggle a little bit with rating. The only issue with doing this so fresh out of it, I had a very I guess we have to wait. Time will tell on this one more than anything. But I had an experience with Memories of Murder, another Bong Joon Ho film, where I didn't necessarily like. I really enjoyed it upon like getting the movie done. I was like, whoa, that was a great movie. But then I just sort of sat with it for a little bit longer, and I was like, oh my god, no, there was way more to this than I expected. For that reason, I think I'm going to go with an 8.8.
Whoa.
Very similar to what Theo was saying. This is definitely worth your time. It's one of the best written movies of this year. Like we have said, it looks incredible and really, really, I cannot stress this enough. Please go out and see this. It's lots of fun. Okay, so the thing is, The Lighthouse got a little bit of buzz from people. I don't think I'm not saying this because I wasn't as high on the movie as everybody else. I don't know if I could recommend The Lighthouse to everyone. I think I could recommend Parasite to almost anyone. I mean, subtitles is what I understand. Not everybody wants subtitles, but it's similar to The Farewell, Peanut Butter Falcon this year, in that like I think anyone would enjoy or get something out of this movie.
I definitely agree with you there. I think that even though I love The Lighthouse, it's a movie I would, with reservation, recommend to specific people.
For sure.
And to the majority of people, I wouldn't even know. But you're right. I think for this one, are you willing to watch a foreign movie? All right, you should watch this.
Yeah, no, literally, like anybody that's about to ask me about this movie in the coming week, I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna say, just please see it. Like that's
and so like, and I think that that's actually really cool because I see this because it covers so much ground, and for the vast majority of it, does it incredibly well. I think it's a very great entry point into not just Bong Joon Ho,
Bong Joon Ho's career
but, and for like South Korean
cinema. Hey,
and foreign films in general, maybe.
Yeah,
Don't really
hopefully. That's what a lot of the hope was, or at least my hope. I know this is we're almost at the end of the review, but that was a lot of my hope with Roma winning Best Picture, is that I could tell people. I was so excited because I was like, oh, a film that's from a foreign director, from a foreign team, that I can easily recommend people on Netflix. Like, once it wins Best Picture, people are going to be like, ooh, did you hear that movie Roma? And I'm going to be like, yeah, I've seen, like, you need to check it out. It's actually really interesting. And then Green Book won, and people would ask me about it. And I was like, oh, well, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's fine. Like, there's nothing bad about Green Book. It's kind of problematic, but whatever. And I don't know. I hope this gets nominated so that way I can say, see, you need to see this.
I have enough faith in the Academy to at least nominate it. Absolutely no faith in it winning anything, but
Same.
I hope they at least take the heads out of their asses and give some recognition, because like I know you were saying prior, oh hey guys, I know we're all hyped on this, but I really don't know. And in my head I was like, okay, I know nothing about the Academy, but my gut reaction is, you haven't seen this movie, and I don't even stand this movie that hard, but I do recognize how just special it is, and I think it's really cool that after you saw this, you're out saying, wow, okay, you know what? Maybe it could get like some recognition. Like,
well, see, it's just me being hopeful because of how just gosh darn good this film is.
Right.
So I understand why people have sort of that hope, optimism. And I'm also in that camp now. But that's going to be our review. If you guys want spoilers, like I mentioned, they'll be posted in a separate video. See you guys.